The UES Defiance drifted through the dark space between stars. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, watching the endless black through the main screen. Her ship looked old and tired. Metal patches covered holes in the hull. The weapon system seemed barely working. Even the paint was peeling off in several places. "Captain, we're getting close to the border zone," said Commander Chen from his station. He was the tactical officer, a thin man with careful eyes. "Should we change course?" Elena shook her head. "Stay en route. We have permission to pass through neutral space." The crew around her looked nervous. They were good people, all 127 of them. Most had served together for years. They trusted their captain, but everyone knew this area was dangerous. The Zephyrian Empire claimed these stars as their own. They did not like humans traveling here. Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez looked up from his engineering console. He was a big man with rough hands and a gentle smile. "Captain, all systems are running normal. The engines are holding steady." Elena nodded. She knew her ship better than anyone. The Defiance had been her home for 3 years. It might look like junk, but it had never let her down. The crew had learned to trust the old ship even when others laughed at them. "Contact on sensors," Chen announced. His voice was calm, but Elena could hear the worry underneath. "Multiple ships coming our way. Big ones." The main screen changed to show space ahead of them. Dots of light appeared, growing larger every second. Elena counted them quickly. More than 40 ships. All of them were Zephyrian. "Send a message on standard channels," Elena ordered. "Tell them we are passing through neutral space on peaceful business." A young communications officer named Walsh pressed buttons on her console. "Message sent, Captain." "They're responding." The screen filled with the face of a Zephyrian. He was tall and blue-skinned with sharp teeth. Gold decorations covered his uniform. His eyes were cold and full of hate. "I am Admiral Kethvar of the 3rd Battle Fleet," the alien said. His voice was deep and threatening. "You are in Zephyrian space, human. Surrender your ship now." Elena stepped forward. "Admiral, this is Captain Vasquez of the UES Defiance. We are traveling through neutral space according to galactic law. We request safe passage." The alien laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Neutral space? These stars belong to the Zephyrian Empire. Your tiny ship is trespassing." More Zephyrian ships appeared on the sensors. Elena could see them forming a circle around the Defiance. They were massive vessels with heavy armor and powerful weapons. Each one was bigger than her ship. The largest ones looked like flying cities. "Look at this pathetic human ship," Kethvar said to someone off-screen. "It looks like it might fall apart if we breathe on it too hard." Laughter came from the communications channel. Elena could hear other Zephyrian voices making jokes about humans. They talked about weak human technology and cowardly human soldiers. "Captain," Chen whispered, "they have us surrounded. 47 ships total. 3 of them are dreadnoughts." Elena kept her face calm. "I can see that, Commander. Continue monitoring their positions." On the screen, Admiral Kethvar was talking to his officers. "This will be easy sport," he said. "We will capture this rust bucket and study their primitive technology. Maybe we can learn how they make ships from garbage." More laughter filled the bridge of the Defiance. Elena's crew looked angry, but they stayed quiet. They had learned to trust their captain's judgment. "Rodriguez," Elena said quietly, "how are our special systems?" The engineer checked his readings carefully. "All green, Captain. Everything is ready when you are." Elena nodded slightly. She turned back to the screen where Kethvar was still talking. "Human Captain," the Admiral said, "you have one choice. Surrender now and we might let some of your crew live, or we will take your ship by force and throw your bodies into space." "Admiral," Elena replied, "I must again request safe passage. We are not looking for trouble." "Trouble?" Kethvar laughed harder. "You are one small ship against the might of the Zephyrian Empire. You cannot cause trouble. You can only die." The Zephyrian ships moved closer. Elena could see their weapon systems powering up. Red lights blinked on her tactical display as enemy ships locked weapons on the Defiance. "Chen, show me their formation," Elena ordered. The main screen changed to show a tactical view. The Zephyrian ships had formed a perfect circle around the human vessel. It was a textbook military maneuver. No escape routes, no blind spots. The aliens had done this many times before. Classic encirclement, Chen observed. They're following standard Zephyrian battle doctrine. Elena almost smiled. Yes, they are. Very predictable. Admiral Kethvar appeared on screen again. "I have decided to be generous, human. We will not destroy your ship immediately. Instead, we will play with you first. Consider it entertainment for my crew. Warning lights started flashing as Zephyrian weapons fired, but the shots went wide, missing the Defiance by several hundred meters. The alien crews were having fun trying to scare the humans. They're treating us like a toy, Walsh said angrily. Let them, Elena replied calmly. Rodriguez, are all systems still ready? Yes, Captain. Just waiting for your word. Elena watched the enemy ships on her screen. They were moving closer, tightening their circle. The largest dreadnought was directly ahead, its massive guns pointed at the Defiance. Captain, Chen said quietly, I'm reading some strange energy patterns from our hull. The masking systems are working perfectly. Elena nodded. She knew what Chen meant, but she kept her voice normal. Good, continue monitoring. Admiral Kethavar spoke again. Perhaps we should test your shields, human. See how much punishment your little ship can take before it breaks. More warning shots flew past the Defiance. Each one came closer than the last. The Zephyrian crews were laughing and cheering over the radio. They thought this was the most fun they had in months. Captain, Rodriguez said, all departments report ready. The package is secure. Elena took a deep breath. She looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. They were scared but determined. They had trained for this moment. They knew what was coming. Admiral Kethvar, Elena said into the communication system, I am giving you one final warning. Withdraw your forces immediately. You are interfering with a classified human military operation. The silence lasted for exactly 3 seconds. Then the Zephyrian admiral burst into laughter so loud it hurt to listen to. A military operation? Kethvar gasped between laughs. With one broken-down ship? What are you going to do, human? Throw rocks at us? Every Zephyrian ship in the fleet joined the laughter. The radio channels filled with alien voices making jokes about human stupidity and weakness. Elena waited for the laughter to stop. When it finally did, she spoke again. Chen, prepare to drop masking on my command. Rodriguez, bring the real engines online. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare for combat operations. Admiral Kethvar stopped laughing. Something in Elena's voice made him pay attention. What did you say, human? Elena looked directly into the camera. Her voice was cold and deadly serious. I said you had your chance, Admiral. You should have taken it. Admiral Kethvar stared at the human captain on his screen. For a moment, something about her voice made him uncomfortable. Then he shook his head and laughed again. Bring your engines online? He mocked. What engines? That rust bucket probably runs on hopes and prayers. The Zephyrian fleet moved closer to the Defiance. Their formation was perfect. Every ship knew exactly where to be. They had practiced this maneuver hundreds of times against enemies much stronger than one human vessel. Fire another warning shot, Kethvar ordered, but make it closer this time. Let's see how brave these humans really are. A bright beam of energy shot from the nearest Zephyrian cruiser. It passed just 50 meters from the Defiance's hull. The human ship didn't move or try to dodge. Look at that, laughed Commander Vextal from the cruiser Bloodfang. They're too scared to even run. Or too stupid, added Captain Mordak from another ship. These humans probably don't even know how to operate their own weapons. The radio channels filled with Zephyrian voices sharing jokes and insults. They had been fighting in space for 300 years. They had never lost a battle. Humans were new to the galaxy and everyone knew their technology was primitive. On the bridge of the Defiance, Elena listened to the alien chatter. Her crew looked angry, but she remained calm. Chen, what's our status? She asked quietly. Commander Chen checked his instruments. All masking fields are operating normally. Enemy sensors show us as a standard patrol ship. Power signature is reading at 20% of actual capacity. Good. Rodriguez, how are the special modifications? Chief Rodriguez smiled slightly. Running smooth as silk, Captain. All systems green across the board. Elena nodded. She walked to the main view screen and studied the enemy formation. The Zephyrians had positioned their ships in a classic military circle. It was exactly what she had expected. They were following their training perfectly. Walsh, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet, Elena ordered. The communications officer pressed her controls. Channel open, Captain. Admiral Kethavar, this is your last chance. Withdraw your forces and let us pass. I don't want unnecessary bloodshed. The alien admiral appeared on screen again. His blue face was twisted with amusement. Bloodshed? Human, the only blood that will be spilled is yours. We have 47 warships. You have one pathetic excuse for a spaceship. Behind Kethvar, Elena could see his bridge crew laughing. Zephyrian officers pointed at their screens and made jokes she couldn't understand, but their meaning was clear enough. Perhaps we should disable their engines first, suggested one of the alien captains over the radio. Then we can board them and see what passes for human military training. Excellent idea, Kethvar agreed. But be careful not to damage too much. I want to study their primitive technology. Maybe we can learn how they build ships from scrap metal. More laughter echoed through the communication system. Elena's crew gritted their teeth, but they stayed focused on their duties. Captain, Chen said quietly, they're charging weapons. Multiple targeting locks on our position. Elena checked the tactical display. Red warning lights showed at least 20 Zephyrian ships had weapons trained on the Defiance. But they weren't firing to kill, not yet. They wanted to play with their prey first. Let them have their fun, Elena said calmly. Rodriguez, run a final diagnostic on all systems. The engineer's fingers moved over his controls. Everything checks out perfect, Captain. The new reactor is running at full capacity. Weapons are charged and ready. Defensive systems are online. Elena almost smiled. Her ship might look like garbage from the outside, but appearances could be deceiving. The Defiance was hiding secrets that would change everything. Human Captain, Admiral Kethvar called out. I've decided to be sporting about this. We'll give you 60 seconds to abandon ship. Anyone who wants to live can take the escape pods. Elena shook her head. Thank you for the offer, Admiral. But my crew and I will stay with our ship. Foolish pride, Kethvar said with disgust. Very well. Don't say I didn't warn you. The Zephyrian ships moved even closer. Elena could see their hulls through the view screen now. Massive gray vessels covered with weapon turrets and armor plating. Each one could probably destroy a city. All ships prepare to disable the human vessel, Kethvar announced on the fleet channel. Target their engines and weapons. I want prisoners for questioning. Admiral, interrupted a young Zephyrian voice. I'm reading some unusual energy patterns from the human ship. Kethvar looked annoyed. What kind of patterns, Ensign? It's hard to explain, sir. The readings don't match what we're seeing. Their power signature seems wrong somehow. Wrong how? Too low, sir. Way too low. Even for primitive human technology, these readings don't make sense. Admiral Kethvar studied his own sensors. The human ship showed minimal energy output. Its engines were barely running. Its weapons appeared to be offline. Obviously, their ship is falling apart, he concluded. These readings prove how pathetic human engineering really is. The young ensign looked confused, but he didn't argue with his admiral. In the Zephyrian military, junior officers learned not to question their superiors. 30 seconds remaining, Kethvar announced. Last chance, humans. Elena stood in the center of her bridge. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. Nobody looked scared anymore. They had trained for this moment for months. Chen, confirm all targeting data, Elena ordered. Confirmed, Captain. We have firing solutions on all enemy vessels. Rodriguez, power levels, holding steady at 100%. All masking fields stable. Elena looked at the countdown timer on her screen. 20 seconds, 15, 10. Captain, Walsh said softly. Incoming transmission from Earth Command. Elena shook her head. Not now. We're a bit busy. 5 seconds, 3, 2, 1. Admiral Kethvar's voice filled the bridge of the Defiance. Time's up, humans. All ships open fire. Disable that pathetic excuse for a warship. 20 Zephyrian ships fired at once. Bright beams of energy and explosive missiles streaked toward the human vessel. It should have been the end of the UES Defiance. Instead, something impossible happened. The weapons struck the human ship and simply disappeared. Energy beams scattered like light hitting a mirror. Missiles exploded harmlessly against an invisible barrier. The Defiance didn't even shake. What? Admiral Kethvar stared at his screen in shock. How is that possible? On her bridge, Elena smiled for the first time since the encounter began. Chen, are you ready? Ready, Captain. Rodriguez. All systems standing by. Elena took a deep breath. The moment had finally arrived. Drop the masking fields. Show them what we really are. The space around the Defiance began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. The masking fields that had hidden the ship's true nature for so long started to fade away. Admiral Kethvar watched his tactical screen in growing horror. The energy readings from the human ship were climbing rapidly. What had shown as a weak patrol vessel was now displaying power levels that rivaled his own flagship. This is impossible, he whispered. Sensors must be malfunctioning. But his instruments were working perfectly. The human ship was changing before his eyes. Hull plates shifted and realigned themselves. What had looked like random damage and patches was actually sophisticated armor plating, folding into new configurations. All ships, target that vessel and fire again, Kethavar shouted. Destroy it now. The Zephyrian fleet unleashed everything they had. Hundreds of energy beams and thousands of missiles flew toward the Defiance. It was enough firepower to crack a moon in half. The attack struck the human ship and vanished. The defensive systems didn't just stop the weapons. They seemed to absorb them completely. The Defiance glowed brighter with each hit it took. Captain, Chen reported with barely controlled excitement. Adaptive shielding is performing beyond expectations. We're actually gaining energy from their attacks. Elena nodded calmly. As designed. Rodriguez, what's the status on our real engines? Coming online now, Captain. Temporal displacement drives are spinning up. Quantum tunnel generators are ready for activation. Admiral Kethvar stared at the readings flooding his screen. The human ship was growing larger. Much larger. The sensor data showed it was actually 3 times the size his eyes were telling him. How big is that thing? Demanded Commander Vextal from the Bloodfang. Computer says it's over 2 kilometers long, replied his sensor officer. But that can't be right. We can see it's much smaller. The computer is correct, a new voice said quietly. It was the young ensign who had noticed the strange readings earlier. They were using some kind of holographic projection to make us think it was small. Kethavar spun around to face the ensign. What are you talking about? The energy patterns I detected, sir. They weren't engine readings. They were the power signature of a massive stealth system. That ship has been hiding its true size and capabilities. On the Defiance, Elena stood before the main view screen as her ship revealed itself in all its glory. The vessel stretched out like a metal mountain, bristling with weapon systems that no alien race had ever seen before. Walsh, open a channel to the Zephyrian fleet, Elena commanded. Channel open. Captain? Elena looked directly into the camera. When she spoke, her voice carried the absolute authority of someone who held all the cards. Admiral Kethvar, allow me to properly introduce my ship. This is the UES Defiance, the first of the new Prometheus-class stealth dreadnoughts. You have been the unwilling participants in our final field test. The Zephyrian admiral's face had gone pale blue. Stealth dreadnought? That's impossible. Humans don't have that technology. You're right, Elena agreed. Humans didn't have that technology. Past tense, we developed it specifically for dealing with threats like your empire. The tactical display showed Elena everything she needed to know. 47 Zephyrian ships arranged in a perfect circle around her position. They had done exactly what her planners had predicted they would do. You see, Admiral, your empire has been testing our borders for months. Your scout ships, your raids on merchant vessels, your demands that we stay out of your space. We decided it was time to send a message. Elena walked slowly around her bridge, never taking her eyes off the screen. We studied your tactics, your formations, your weaknesses. We designed this ship specifically to counter everything your military does well. Chen, show the Admiral our weapon systems, Elena ordered. The main screen changed to display a technical readout. The Defiance mounted weapons that shouldn't exist, quantum torpedo launchers, particle beam arrays that could adjust their frequency in real time, gravitational manipulation cannons. These are theoretical weapons, Kethavar said weakly. They can't actually work. Would you like a demonstration? Elena asked pleasantly. She didn't wait for an answer. Chen, fire 1 quantum torpedo. Minimal charge. Target the cruiser at bearing 047. A small point of light shot from the Defiance toward one of the Zephyrian ships. The torpedo passed through the cruiser's shields as if they didn't exist. There was a brief flash, and then the entire middle section of the enemy vessel simply disappeared. The cruiser broke in half, its crew scrambling for escape pods as the 2 pieces drifted apart. Silence filled the radio channels. Every alien in the Zephyrian fleet stared at their screens in shock. How? Admiral Kethavar whispered. Quantum torpedoes phase through normal matter until they reach a predetermined point, Elena explained calmly. Then they return to normal space inside your hull. Your shields can't stop them because technically they never touch your shields. Elena turned to Rodriguez. Chief, show them our mobility systems. With pleasure, Captain. The Defiance began to move, but it didn't accelerate like a normal ship. Instead, it seemed to fold space around itself, appearing in 3 different locations simultaneously. Temporal displacement drives, Elena explained as Zephyrian gunners tried desperately to target her ship. We can exist in multiple time streams at once. Very difficult to hit a target that's in 3 places at the same time. Admiral Kethvar was breathing heavily now. Sweat ran down his blue face. What do you want? What do I want? Elena repeated. I want you to return to your empire, Admiral. I want you to tell them exactly what happened here today. I want you to explain that humanity is no longer interested in being pushed around. She gestured at the tactical display showing his fleet. Your ships are arranged in a perfect attack formation. Very impressive against conventional enemies. But you've made one critical mistake. What mistake? Elena smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. You've surrounded us with all your ships. That means every single one of your vessels is now within optimal firing range of our weapons. The realization hit Admiral Kethvar like a physical blow. His perfect encirclement had become a perfect trap. For his own fleet. You planned this, he said. Of course we planned this, Elena replied. Did you really think we'd send one ship into hostile territory without a very good reason? You've been studying human tactics, Admiral. Allow me to return the favor. Elena looked around her bridge. Her crew was ready. They had trained for this moment for over a year. Admiral Kethvar, I'm going to give you one last chance. The same chance you gave me. Order your fleet to withdraw immediately, and no more of your people have to die. The Zephyrian admiral looked at his tactical display. 46 ships remaining, all of them trapped in close formation around an enemy vessel that had technology beyond his understanding. And if I refuse? Elena's expression didn't change. Then you'll discover why we call this ship class the Prometheus. In human mythology, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to mortals. She paused, letting that sink in. We stole the fire, Admiral, and now we're going to use it. Admiral Kethvar stared at the human captain for a long moment. His pride as a Zephyrian warrior fought against the growing fear in his chest. He had never retreated from a battle in 30 years of service. I am Admiral Kethvar of the 3rd Battle Fleet, he said finally. We do not run from humans. Elena sighed sadly. I was hoping you'd be smarter than that, Admiral. She turned to her tactical officer. Chen, you may begin the demonstration. All weapons free. Show them what human engineering can accomplish. Aye, Captain. All weapons coming online. The Defiance transformed once again. Weapon ports opened along its massive hull like the eyes of some ancient dragon. Energy began building in systems that operated on principles the Zephyrians had never imagined. All ships. Attack formation Delta, Kethvar shouted. Concentrate fire on that vessel. The remaining 46 Zephyrian ships opened fire at once. Every weapon they had unleashed destruction toward the human dreadnought. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small planet. The attack struck the Defiance and simply vanished. The adaptive shielding didn't just absorb the energy, it redirected it into the ship's weapon systems. Thank you for the extra power, Elena said politely. Chen, quantum torpedoes. Fire. 12 points of light shot from the Defiance toward the Zephyrian fleet. Each torpedo picked a different target. They passed through shields and armor as if they were made of mist. 12 Zephyrian ships exploded from the inside out. Impossible, Kethvar screamed. How are you doing this? Science, Admiral, Elena replied calmly. Humans are very good at science. The Defiance began to move through the enemy formation. But it didn't move like a normal ship. Space seemed to bend around it as temporal displacement drives allowed it to exist in multiple locations at once. Zephyrian gunners found themselves shooting at targets that weren't really there. Energy beams passed through empty space where their sensors told them the human ship should be. Particle beam arrays, full power, Elena ordered. Brilliant beams of pure energy lanced out from the Defiance. But these weren't ordinary weapons. They adapted their frequency in real time, matching and overwhelming any defensive system they encountered. 6 more Zephyrian ships died in seconds. Their shields offered no protection against weapons that could change faster than their computers could react. Admiral, one of his captains called desperately, our shields are useless. Their weapons pass right through them. Then armor up and ram them, Kethvar shouted back. The heavy cruiser Deathstrike turned toward the human vessel and engaged its emergency engines. The massive ship accelerated directly at the Defiance at maximum speed. Elena watched the cruiser approach without concern. Rodriguez, gravitational manipulation array. Ready, Captain. Target the incoming ship. Demonstrate our space-bending capabilities. An invisible wave of force reached out from the Defiance. The fabric of space itself twisted around the charging Zephyrian cruiser. The ship's hull began to compress as artificial gravity fields crushed it from all directions. The Death Strike imploded like a tin can under pressure. Its crew had perhaps a second to realize what was happening before their ship became a ball of twisted metal. Admiral Kethvar watched in horror as his fleet was systematically destroyed. This wasn't a battle, it was a demonstration. The humans were showing off their technology like teachers explaining a lesson to students. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked weakly. 21 destroyed, sir," his tactical officer reported. 5 more heavily damaged. Half his fleet was gone in less than 10 minutes, and the human ship hadn't even taken a scratch. "Admiral," Elena's voice came over the communications system. "Would you like to see what our main guns can do?" Before Kethavar could answer, the Defiance revealed its primary weapon system. A massive cannon emerged from the ship's center, easily as large as a Zephyrian destroyer. "This is what we call a stellar disruption cannon," Elena explained conversationally. "It fires concentrated dark matter at near light speed. We originally designed it for breaking up asteroids, but it works quite well on starships too." The cannon charged with a low humming sound that somehow carried through space. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. "Chen, please target the Dreadnought Worldbreaker. I want to make sure Admiral Kethvar gets a good view." "Target locked, Captain." The stellar disruption cannon fired. What emerged wasn't a beam or a projectile, it was a ripple in reality itself. Space twisted and warped as the dark matter pulse traveled toward its target. The Worldbreaker, largest ship in the Zephyrian fleet, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment there was nothing but empty space. Not even debris remained. "Molecular disintegration," Elena explained helpfully. "The dark matter disrupts the bonds between atoms." Very clean, very final. Admiral Kethavar felt his courage finally break. "Please," he whispered. "Stop this." "We surrender, do you?" Elena asked. "Because I don't think your remaining ships got the message." She was right. The surviving Zephyrian vessels were still firing their weapons desperately. Their crews were too proud or too scared to stop fighting. "Allow me to help with communications," Elena said. The Defiance began moving through the enemy formation at impossible speed. Its temporal drives let it appear beside each ship for just long enough to fire a single shot. 1 quantum torpedo per vessel. Clean, precise, final. Ship after ship exploded as the human dreadnought danced between them like death itself. The Zephyrian crews couldn't even track their target long enough to aim properly. "Stop," Admiral Kethvar screamed. "Please stop. I order all ships to cease fire." The remaining vessels finally obeyed their admiral's command. They stopped shooting and tried to retreat. But the Defiance was everywhere at once, picking them off one by one. In less than 30 minutes, the third battle fleet of the Zephyrian Empire had been reduced to 5 ships, 4 destroyers and Admiral Kethvar's flagship. The Defiance appeared directly in front of the admiral's ship and stopped moving. For the first time since the battle began, the human vessel held a steady position. "Admiral," Elena's voice was calm and professional, "I believe you have something to tell your empire." Kethvar looked around his bridge. His officers stared back at him with broken spirits. They had witnessed the impossible. 1 human ship had destroyed 42 Zephyrian vessels without taking any damage. "What are you?" he asked quietly. Elena appeared on his screen again. Her expression was neither cruel nor kind, just businesslike. "We are what you made us, Admiral. For centuries, your empire has been the strongest military force in this sector. You pushed around smaller races. You took what you wanted. You believed your technology and tactics made you invincible." She gestured at the empty space where his fleet used to be. "You forced us to become something stronger than you. Every raid on our colonies, every demand for tribute, every act of aggression taught us what we needed to survive. We learned. We adapted. We evolved." Elena leaned forward slightly. "The question now, Admiral, is what happens next. You can return to your empire and tell them what happened here. Explain that humanity is no longer interested in being victims, or—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Admiral Kethvar understood perfectly. Admiral Kethvar sat in his command chair like a broken man. Around him, the bridge of his flagship was eerily quiet. His officers worked at their stations with the careful movements of people who had seen their entire worldview shattered. "Captain Vasquez," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper, What do you want from us? Elena studied the alien admiral on her screen. She could see the defeat in his eyes, but also something else. Perhaps understanding, maybe even respect. I want you to go home, Admiral. I want you to tell your leaders exactly what happened here today. Every detail. Don't leave anything out. She gestured at the empty space around them where the 3rd Battle Fleet used to be. 42 ships, Admiral. Gone in 30 minutes. One human vessel did what your empire believed was impossible. Kethvar nodded slowly. They will not believe me. Then you'll show them the recordings, Elena replied. Your computers captured everything. The weapon signatures, the technology, the tactical data. Your empire's military leaders will understand what they're looking at. Elena walked to her tactical display. Chen, show the Admiral our current status. The screen changed to display the Defiance's condition. Every system showed green. Power levels were actually higher than when the battle started, thanks to the energy absorbed from Zephyrian weapons. 0 damage, Elena noted. 0 casualties. Your entire fleet threw everything they had at us, and we're in better shape now than when we started. Admiral Kethvar closed his eyes. How many ships like yours do humans have? Elena smiled, but it wasn't a cruel expression. That would be classified information, Admiral. But I will tell you this. The Defiance isn't a prototype anymore. It's proven technology. She let that sink in for a moment. Your empire has been testing our defenses for months, probing our borders, attacking our merchants. You wanted to know how strong humanity really is. Consider this your answer. Elena turned to Rodriguez. Chief, prepare a data package for the Admiral. Include technical specifications on our quantum torpedoes, particle beam arrays, and gravitational manipulation systems. Rodriguez looked surprised. Captain, that's classified technology. Not anymore, Elena replied. If we're going to change the balance of power in this sector, we need to be clear about what we're capable of. She faced the screen again. Admiral, you're going to receive detailed information about some of our weapon systems. Not all of them, of course. Just enough to help your leaders understand their new reality. Why would you give us your military secrets? Kethvar asked. Because they're not secrets anymore, Elena explained. After today, every major power in the galaxy will know that human technology has advanced beyond their ability to counter it. The smart ones will ask for trade agreements instead of testing our weapons. Elena paused, considering her next words carefully. Your empire has a choice to make, Admiral. You can continue your aggressive expansion and find out what our 2nd-generation ships are capable of. Or you can join the new galactic order that's about to emerge. What new order? One where humanity isn't the weak newcomer anymore. One where other races think very carefully before threatening human colonies or shipping lanes. Elena walked to her communication station. Walsh, open a channel to Earth Command. Channel open, Captain. Earth Command, this is Captain Vasquez aboard the UES Defiance. Field test has been completed successfully. All objectives achieved. Request permission to return to base. A new voice filled the bridge. Captain Vasquez, this is Admiral Chen. Outstanding work. You are cleared to return to Earth. The fleet is waiting for you. Elena saw Admiral Kethvar's expression change at the word fleet. Thank you. Admiral Chen, Defiance out. She turned back to the Zephyrian commander. Admiral, I'm sure you caught that reference to a fleet. Would you like to know how many ships like mine Earth has built? Kethvar's blue face had gone pale again. How many? 12 Prometheus-class stealth dreadnoughts are currently operational. 18 more are in final construction. And that's just the first production run. Elena let him absorb that information. But that's not the really interesting news, Admiral. The Prometheus class is our 2nd-generation stealth ship. We've already started building 3rd-generation vessels. The Titan class will be twice as large and 3 times as powerful. Admiral Kethvar put his head in his hands. 30 ships like yours? And you're building even stronger ones. The galaxy is changing, Admiral. Humanity spent decades being pushed around by older, more established races. We learned from every insult, every threat, every attack. Now we're ready to push back. Elena walked to the center of her bridge. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency. They had just participated in a battle that would reshape galactic politics, and they knew it. Rodriguez, are the other ships ready? The engineer checked his readings. All masking fields are dropping on schedule, Captain. They should be revealing themselves right about now. Elena smiled. Admiral, I have one more surprise for you. Look at your long-range sensors. Kethvar's tactical officer worked frantically at his console. Admiral, I'm picking up massive energy signatures throughout this sector. Ships are appearing everywhere. How many ships? Kethvar asked weakly. I count 26 vessels, sir. All showing human signatures. All the same class as the Defiance. Elena nodded. 26 Prometheus-class ships have been conducting operations throughout Zephyrian space for the past 3 months. Mapping your defenses, studying your patrol routes, learning your weaknesses. The full scope of what had happened began to dawn on Admiral Kethvar. You've been watching us. All of us. Every major military installation in your empire has been under observation. Elena confirmed. We know where your shipyards are. We know your fleet compositions. We know your supply lines and communication networks. She leaned forward slightly. We know everything, Admiral. The question is what we do with that knowledge. Kethvar straightened in his chair. Despite everything, he was still a military officer. Are you threatening to attack our homeworld? No, Elena said firmly. We're not conquerors, Admiral. We're not interested in ruling your empire. We just want to be left alone. She gestured at the tactical display. But if your empire continues its aggressive behavior toward human colonies, you'll discover that we have the ability to strike anywhere in Zephyrian space at any time. Your choice. Elena turned to her communications officer. Walsh, prepare a message drone for the Admiral. Include all our technical data and a formal diplomatic proposal. What kind of proposal? Kethvar asked. A non-aggression pact. Trade agreements. Maybe even a military alliance if your empire is interested in peace instead of conquest. Elena looked directly at the camera. The age of humanity being the weak newcomer is over, Admiral. We can be your worst enemy or your most valuable ally. The choice is entirely up to your empire. Admiral Kethvar sat quietly for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I will deliver your message, Captain Vasquez, and I will recommend that my government accept your terms. Wise decision, Admiral. Safe travels. Elena cut the communication channel and turned to her crew. Well done, everyone. Set course for Earth, it's time to go home. As the Defiance prepared to leave, Admiral Kethvar watched from his bridge. The human ship folded space around itself and vanished, leaving only empty space where moments before the most advanced warship he had ever seen had been floating. He looked around his bridge at the faces of his surviving crew. They had witnessed the birth of a new superpower. The galaxy would never be the same. Send a message to High Command, he ordered quietly. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need to talk.